Behavioral problems in cats there's a lot of behavioral problems with cats. So I'm going to just speak about 2 or 3 of them. I think the most common behavioral problem in cats, when people come to me and say they have a problem, it's usually either the cat is scratching on the furniture or not using its litter box. So also sometimes they're just crying all the time, and people don't know how to handle it, and you end up having a very big fat cat because that's what they think is going on. They just want food. But let's start with just scratching. If you want a cat if you think you can have a cat to stop scratching, you're probably going to be very frustrated because it's a natural thing for cats to do. When they like to scratch, they like to sharpen their claws. It actually leaves a little scent from the scent glands in their paws. And if they just really want to stretch, they just go out there and stretch really well. So that's a hard thing to stop. The best thing you can do is try not to let them scratch your furniture. I mean, you don't care if they scratch a scratching post, or some people don't mind the rug, but sometimes the rug isn't the right place either. So you really want to try to direct their behavior into the more appropriate areas and away from discourage the scratching in the places you don't want to. So the things I usually recommend to people as far as discouraging areas, sometimes like a 2-sided carpet tape if you have on the side of your couch. You can just, that's a favorite place maybe, that you just put the carpet tape on. The tape, they won't like the stickiness. If it's on a wooden trim board or something in your house, again, you can put some tape on there, or put some tin foil. Usually tape some tin foil. They don't like the way that feels. So that would be discouraging. But at the same time, if right next to it, you could put like a scratching post or something you would encourage them to use, and maybe add a little catnip. There's lots of products out there. Lots of stores have lots of ways that you can put together great different sorts of configurations of items that will help cats avoid the other things and scratch on the things you want them to scratch on. The other problem about elimination problems is a little bit harder, but basically cats really like to be clean, and they don't want to just defecate anywhere. They'll use a box if you have a box. And many of the behavioral problems, usually if you have an outdoor cat, you don't have a problem because the cat's going outside all the time. But sometimes here in the New England, we have a problem in winter. The cats might not like to go out. They have an issue. Now they're in the house and they got to use the box. Well, people always don't have the boxes in the right places, or they're not cleaning them out very well, or they're using litter that isn't the right flavor for the cat. What's a good scent for us, what might be a scented litter for a cat, what we'd say, oh, that smells very pleasant, the cat might just think that's disgusting. I mean, you just have to pretend you're a cat and say, what would you really like? And most of the time, if it's dirt, it's just sand or dirt, and it doesn't really have a smell to it. And I usually think those are the best ones to use, or try to change one. If you're having a problem with one, change to another one. If you're having a problem with a litter box in general, don't put it near the food. Don't put it near the water. Find a place where it's not isolated, like in the basement, way off in a corner, but accessible for the cat, but in a place that he would probably want to use it. Not in the middle of the room. Cats like to be private about this, just like people. Some litter boxes have lids on them. Sometimes that's better. Some cats don't like to use the lid, so you take the lid off. And so you just have to play with it a little bit. But usually, eventually, things will work out. And the worst case scenario with the litter box is, and a cat's been outside, now is indoors, is you kind of have to retrain them. Retraining sometimes can only take a couple of days, but it's very important that before you just decide to throw the cat out, that there are other alternatives. Well, which reminds me, another thing is just make sure it doesn't have any sort of medical problems. If a cat is urinating around the house, one of the major things you want to make sure is that doesn't have a urinary tract infection. Or if it has diarrhea and it can't make it to the box, well, maybe it's the diarrhea that's a problem and not the fact that he's not using the box. But considering the fact that the cat is what you think is normal, it's normally doing, had been using the box and now isn't, retraining can be done by just placing the box in the cat with its food in a small room, maybe like a bedroom or a small bathroom, and just letting them be there for 2 or 3, 4 days. It doesn't mean to isolate them and you're not like in solitary, go in there and play and be interactive, but if they have no other choices but the litter box and the bathtub, they'll usually use the litter box.